Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, also known as Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, was the sequel to the industry-saving game Super Mario Bros. Kids all around the world became quickly familiar with the Italian plumber and his many exploits, breaking bricks, stomping Koopas, and sending Bowser to a lavery bath. And yet, for all the love the original game gets, the sequel seems to be in this state of flux, being constantly lambasted whenever mentioned, and with others even denying its right to be a sequel in the first place. But what if I told you this was the great conspiracy that the Mario community has been hiding for years? It's something that even Nintendo have noticed was a conspiracy, and they've been trying their hardest to undo. And yet I'm here to open this conspiracy wide open. The legacy of Lost Levels is an unfair one, and it only exists because you suck at video games. Now, there are moments where this game is absolutely unfair. Game design where you can't even see your own character, and other levels where in fact it's possible to overload the game where you can't progress, are objective flaws that I'm not going to defend. What I am going to defend the game from is you, the piss baby who can't play the game, and instead of internalizing and realizing that they're just not good at video games, makes it the game's fault. What did he mean by this? Let him cook. See, right off the rip, we get into one of Lost Levels' greatest flaws. Its name is called The Lost Levels. In its native Nihon, it's branded as Super Mario Bros. 2, and in fact looks like a direct sequel. It plays like a direct sequel. In fact, it's supposed to be Super Mario Bros. For super players. This is something that modern day Nintendo is no stranger to. New Super Mario Bros. U ended up launching in the West on the Wii U family of systems, and shortly after, to celebrate the year of Luigi, New Super Luigi U came out. And what exactly was Super Luigi U? It was a remixed version of the original game, making the game design a bit harder and punchier. A game that works best when you've played the easier original and are now ready for a tougher challenge. And this is where I hear you say, and that's true. And that's because Nintendo have realized that you're a baby. We're talking about the same generation that grew up with Super Guide. You could only take a game and remix it to be so much more harder before people will just realize they can scroll on their TikTok and play their Subway servers instead. So while there's only 100 seconds on the clock in Luigi U, it's 100 real-time seconds instead of 100 Mario seconds to account for the fact that you're just shit at video games. Oh, and don't take my word for it. You told me this yourself. Okay, be honest, chat. How many of you guys actually use Super Guide when you were kids? I mean, I did not need Super Guide. You kidding me? You guys did? Yeah? Back in the 80s, they didn't need to account for this. Super Mario Bros. 2 is a direct sequel to the original. Super Mario Bros. For super players. In fact, they even told you when they re-released this game in the West. The first time we actually saw this game branded correctly was in Super Mario Bros. Deluxe for the Boy family of systems. In there, after going through the hero's journey of playing the original Super Mario Bros., going back to the main menu will reveal a Luigi head, which not only serves some fantastic symbolism, the Luigi head being the button that takes you to Super Mario Bros. 2, Luigi being player 2, but they don't call it Super Mario Bros. 2. They don't call it Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. They call it Super Mario Bros. For super players. You only unlock this after playing the original, cementing what the intention of this game was always supposed to be. A game for players who mastered the original and were ready to take that next challenge. So if that context was lost on you, whose fault is it really? You for not understanding it, or Nintendo for not properly telegraphing it? That was a rhetorical question, by the way. The curtains are obviously red. And playing this game as it was originally intended, after you've mastered the original game, the game design makes perfect sense. All its unfairness seemingly just goes right out the window. You learned about warp zones in the original game, and in fact, if you try the warp zone trick you saw in the original, you will be rewarded with progress, just not as much progress as you'd like, indicating that this game is really trying to test your mettle. Even all the way back in the 80s, kids were curious to see if they could go over the flagpole, and in this game, they allow you to do exactly that, but decide to play a little harmless trick on you.
But it's not harmless, Musty. It makes you go backwards.
You say as you conveniently ignore the hole in which you can lose a life so that you can progress as normal, indicating that it was in fact a playful joke.
But Musty, what about World 8? That doesn't have one.
These game design chops that Nintendo obviously have and are better than any other company is exemplified perfectly in the poison mushroom. Right from the beginning of the game, it will showcase to you exactly what's going to happen when it comes to the power-up situation. It is in fact crazy. The first mushroom in the game requires you to do a very specific brick block bounce in order for you to get it, with the poison mushroom being available in the nearest question mark block, not too different from how it would be in a normal Mario game, indicating to you that if you want power-ups, you kind of got to go a bit out of your way. And if you simply hit a brick block without thinking twice, you might be in for a nasty surprise. Hammer Bro is an enemy that was always stationary and would throw hammers at you from a distance, only closing the gap after a really long period of time, have now evolved to simply charge at you right off the rip. A lovely evolution on the Hammer Bros formula. And in fact, if the controls are something you've absolutely mastered, how about you add something that kind of throws a bit of a spanner in the works, i.e. the wind. Once again, something they introduced to you in a relatively fair format, before really dialing it up later. Pick a path level, something you are more than familiar with, something that forced you to take the most hardest road to go in order to progress, have simply evolved to be a lot more tense here as well. All this to say, when people lambast the correct Mario Brothers 2 for being just a bit derivative and not adding much to the story, people like to counter that with Luigi's unique physics being introduced in this game first. And in fact, I'll take you one step further. This was the game that even introduced the idea of post-game content. In the original game, you beat it and you're pretty much done. In fact, even in Imposter Mario 2, you beat the game and you wake up from a dream? And when you stayed up late, you played until your thumbs bled, and it turns out the whole game was made up in Homeboy's head. I hope someone got fired for that blunder. Whether the correct Bros 2 actually marks when you've beaten the game, or the star for your troubles. For any super dedicated players, they'll realize once they collect 8 of them and beat the game, we'll be taken to worlds A to D. An even tougher game for super duper players. Really meant to test your mettle. Safe to say you're not invited then, huh? What I'm saying is, if you're a big fan of Grandmaster Galaxy, Champions Road, the special world from Mario World, respect the OG. Respect your elders. So all this is to basically say, if you've ever written the game off for being hard, for being poorly designed, it is in fact your fault. And I never want you to forget it. This was back in the day where Miyamoto actually had to try. Now he'd just be showing up in Nintendo Directs wearing his Pikmin shirt, and you guys be lapping that shit up, huh? This is back when he was a working man, when he had to try, when he had to earn his stripes. Those same stripes that you earn when you beat it. So do your country a favor and play Lost Levels today and see it for the Mario 2 it was always meant to be.